It's a Tuesday. You're standing in someone's kitchen, holding a glass of wine you barely wanted, and your friend casually mentions her sink's been making a weird sound for 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And before she's even finished the sentence, you're already mentally walking through it. P-trap? Garbage disposal? Loose washer? You're not even a plumber. You don't fix sinks. But your brain's already opened 17 mental tabs and started Googling fittings, and you haven't even taken a sip yet. If you know exactly what I'm talking about, this is going to make you feel seen. You're not too much. You're just hearing what other people miss. Here's what nobody tells you about people whose brain does this. You're not nosy. You're not a control freak. You're not too much. You're someone whose nervous system got wired, probably very early, to scan for problems before they get bigger. Psychologists have a name for this pattern: compulsive helping, and it often traces back to something called parentification. Translation: somewhere along the line, your brain learned that being useful was the same as being safe, that noticing things others missed wasn't a quirk, it was a survival skill. And now, decades later, your kitchen counter conversation with a friend lights up the same circuits that used to scan for tension at the dinner table when you were 9. Let's start with the parentification piece. Dr. Lisa M. Hooper, one of the leading researchers in this area, has spent years studying kids who got handed adult-sized emotional responsibilities before their brains were ready. The mom who needed managing, the sibling who needed protecting, the household tension you learned to diffuse before it boiled over. Hooper's work, published in journals like the American Journal of Orthopsychiatry, shows that parentified kids develop a kind of premature competence. They get really good at reading a room and intervening before anyone asks. Wild, right? The skill that made you weirdly mature at 12 is the same one making you mentally redesign your friend's plumbing at 32. Mechanism number 2. Your threat detection system is just running hotter than other people's. Research on hyper-vigilance, much of it coming out of stress and trauma labs, shows that brains shaped by unpredictable environments stay tuned to small signals long after the unpredictability stops. A weird sound, a tone shift, a pause that lasted half a second too long. Where other people hear noise, you hear data. Your amygdala has basically been promoted to senior management, and it's not stepping down anytime soon. This is why you can be 3 rooms away and somehow know exactly when something's about to go sideways. Here's where it gets interesting. There's a phenomenon called the Zeigarnik effect, named after Bluma Zeigarnik, a Soviet psychologist who noticed in the 1920s that waiters in a Berlin cafe could remember unpaid orders perfectly and forgot them the instant the bill was settled. Unfinished tasks occupy mental space. They nag, they loop, they keep a little tab open in your brain until they're closed. For most people, this happens with their own tasks. For you, it happens with everyone's tasks. Your friend's sink, your coworker's project, the argument your parents had in 2007 that never got resolved. Each one's a tab you can't quite close. Exhausting. And finally, there's locus of control, a concept from psychologist Julian Rotter. People with a strong internal locus of control believe that outcomes are something they can influence, not just receive. Most chronic fixers test high on this. Translation: when something's broken, your brain doesn't pause to consider whether it's your job to fix it. It jumps straight to how. The weather question got skipped somewhere in childhood, possibly around the time you realized that if you didn't handle it, no one would. Think about the last time someone told you about a problem at work. Did you actually listen? Or did your brain immediately split screen, half of you nodding sympathetically, the other half assembling a 5-step action plan you didn't ask permission to give? Yeah, that. Notice how you've texted solutions to people who just wanted to vent. Notice how "I'm not asking you to fix it, I just want to talk" lands like a foreign language in your ears. Notice the way you watch a movie and physically wince when a character makes a bad choice, because your brain's already 3 scenes ahead, fixing it for them. Or take last Sunday. You're folding laundry, half watching some show, and your partner mentions casually that they're stressed about their boss. By Tuesday morning, you've drafted an entire conversation script for them to use in the next meeting. They didn't ask. They didn't want it. And honestly, you barely remember writing it. This is why you can't watch reality TV, why you give unsolicited advice and feel terrible about it for 3 days afterward, why you've ended evenings at parties exhausted because somewhere around 9 p.m., you started managing the social temperature of a group of grown adults who didn't need managing. And here's the kicker. You do this in your sleep, too. The 3 a.m. thought that wakes you up isn't your problem. It's someone else's problem, and your brain just figured out the solution. Now your eyes are open, the ceiling fan's spinning, and you're composing a text you won't send until morning. Now, the honest part. Fixing isn't always generous. Sometimes it's avoidance with a productivity costume on. If you're always solving someone else's something, you don't have to sit with your own anything, your feelings, your fatigue. The question you've been dodging for 6 months about whether your own life is actually working. Fixing can also outrun consent. People didn't ask for the spreadsheet. They wanted a hug, or a "that sounds really hard," or just to be heard for 90 seconds. And when fixing becomes the only way you know how to love someone, it stops being help. It starts being a wall with a smile on it. Here's the image I want to leave you with. There's a person in every concert hall whose job is to walk on stage before the music starts, sit at the piano, and listen for things nobody else can hear. They tap the same note 20 times, adjusting a tiny pin by fractions of a millimeter. The audience never claps for them. Most of the audience doesn't even know they exist. But every note that beautiful concert produces, every single one, passes through their hands first. That's you. You're not chaotic. You're not controlling. You're the tuner who walked into the room before anyone else and quietly made the music possible. The only thing left is learning when to set the hammer down and take your seat in the audience. The music doesn't need you perfect. It needs you present. So tell me, are you a fix it before anyone asks fixer, or a wait until they're actually crying fixer? Drop it in the comments. I read them